Welcome Year 8s. Today I'm going to teach you how to use Litchi Mission Hub. I know you guys have taken a little bit of a look at this software and you've watched a video by now of me using it. I flew the drone over the school earlier in the week and the software I used was Litchi. So you're going to learn how to use Litchi. Even though you can't be at school to fly your mission, you can use the software to create a mission. And I'll be able to go into school and fly your mission. Hopefully upload that video to the Edmodo page for you. And it should all be pretty epic. I've done this a few times with Year 7s and Year 8s before. It's always a great activity. It's always best if you can be there to enjoy it, but we'll do our best with remote learning. I'm still sure it's still going to be pretty cool. So I know that in earlier activities you've experimented with Litchi. So we'll go through the finer points of Litchi today. I've also got details on the mission that you need to create. So without further ado, this document, planning your mission using Litchi Mission Hub, this document is in the same post as this video. So open this document up. I'm going to go through this for you really quickly just to make sure you're really clear on what I need you to do. And without further ado, so step one, this is the easiest way to get to Litchi. Go to Google. I've already got Litchi there, but I'll go back one step. Type in Litchi Mission Hub and click the first link that comes up. Boom. Okay, so if you're looking at something like this, you're looking at Litchi. Now, if your device has location settings on, you should be looking at Ballarat, just like I am. However, if you are not looking at Ballarat, if you're looking at something random, type in the school's address, 1 Fussell Street, Ballarat, and press enter, and that'll take you straight to the school. So this is a Google Maps overlay of our school. So this is not a live image or anything like that. It's just like Google Maps. If we take a close look here, you'll notice this is an old picture. So the hall is very different now. We've got our new theatre and our new cafeteria. The science wing here that I've got a circle over is gone. This building here is gone too. That's the old tech wing. That's gone. That's been replaced. The VCE Centre's right. This one's gone too. We don't have a canteen there anymore, but that's not going to stop you from being able to make a mission, okay? And it doesn't matter what's on the ground anyway. The drone's going to be flying in the air, so as long as we've got a few things we can hang our hat on, the shade sail's definitely still there. The chessboard out the front of the library is still there. The rec's still there, and this is our school within these boundaries here. So we've got about a half a k from here to here. All this is our land and we can safely and legally fly here. Sorry, not this bit. This is the neighbours. So we have to not fly over them. We can look at them while we fly, say here. We can still look over here, but we wouldn't stray onto their property. Back to our instructions. Okay, so waypoints. Waypoints are the spots the drone will fly during your mission. They look like this. Okay, so they're a little upside down teardrop. They have a little number above them. That little number above indicates the altitude, how high off the ground. And the waypoints are where the drone will fly. Now a left click, like so, will add waypoints. So I'm just adding lots of waypoints there. So that would be where the drone would fly. Okay, I'll get rid of all of those. So the number in purple shows the waypoint number. The drone will fly first to 1, then to 2, then to 3, then to so on. So that's your waypoint number there. The number in the black square shows the altitude. The waypoint, this waypoint is 30 metres off the ground, okay, 30 metres. Now you must not make any of your waypoints lower than 30 metres. We've measured the trees at school. The tallest trees are about 20 metres. We've of course got power lines around the place as well. Now they're not as high as 20 metres, but we need to stay right away from that sort of stuff. 30 metres is definitely the lowest we would want to go. And you'll know from the work we've done earlier last week, or it might have been earlier this week, when you were looking up rules for drones, 120 metres is the highest we are legally allowed to fly. But for this mission, everything we do will be between 30 and 40 metres, a really good drone flying altitude. We're definitely too high for the trees, definitely too high for power lines, and we're definitely too low for any aircraft that might come over. So we might get hassled by bees, we might get hassled by birds, but we won't get hassled by power lines, and we certainly won't get hassled by any choppers or aeroplanes flying over. So the number in the black square shows the altitude, so that's that one there. The blue paper plane with an eyeball on it shows which way the drone is pointing. So you can see here this little paper plane icon. That gives you some indication of which way the drone's going to be facing. So that is also known as your heading. So you control where the drone flies with waypoints, and you control what the drone looks at with points of interest, POIs. So points of interest are the things the drone will look at as it moves around. So these little things are where it's going to fly. These little things are what it's going to look at. Where was I? You can have multiple points of interest, so the drone looks at different things as it flies from waypoint to waypoint. They look like this. So that's actually a tiny little picture of a camera there. It has a number on it as well, so you can have as many waypoints as you like, and you can decide between which waypoint, what point of interest it's going to look at. Now this little one in black here, that indicates the altitude as well. Now on the waypoint, like this is only 1 meter off the ground, but that means that the camera is going to be looking 1 meter off the ground. It's not going to fly to 1 meter off the ground. That's a little bit low. That's a heap low. But if it's looking 1 meter off the ground, that's perfect. You probably wouldn't want to be flying at 30 meters and looking 30 meters. That means you're just looking straight in front of you, which is okay, but usually looking at the ground is sort of where you're going to see more interesting things. So points of interest are where the drone will look. So the number in blue is the point of interest number. This is point of interest 2. The number in black shows how far off the ground the camera will focus as it looks at the point of interest. The focus on this point of interest is 1 meter from the ground. Boom. Point of interest control where the drone looks, not where it flies. If you highlight a point of interest or waypoint, it turns green. Once highlighted, point of interest and waypoints give you a dialog box that will let you alter other settings. So just jump in to Litchi here real quick. So let's say we wanted to fly around the oval here. So I'd put a waypoint here, 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 and here. And you can see, if we look really closely at that little airplane with an eyeball on it, it's always pointing this way. So the drone would fly around this circle, but it would always be looking over at the road here. If we put a point of interest in the middle of the oval, and I'll do that with my right click, you'll notice all of these little eyeballs are now looking at that waypoint. So this would be a much more interesting mission because the drone's going to fly around following the yellow line. So it's actually going to follow the blue line. It will draw a bit of a smooth circle between the waypoints that you can actually change, but the default setting is for smoothness. So this drone mission would fly in a sort of almost a circle and always be looking at this point, which would give you a really, a really good cinematic impression. And if this is where the action is, then that's what you want your drone to do. So get rid of all of those guys. Get rid of that guy too. Back to our instructions. So waypoint settings lets you alter the speed, the curve, heading, for the drone's behavior as it flies towards each waypoint. Okay, so when you make a waypoint, boom, this box comes up here, and these are all the things you can control for a waypoint. So you've got your longitude and latitude. You don't actually have to alter those. As soon as you click, that is automatically set. And it does that based on the Google map, and it needs to do that because the drone needs to be able to understand the command, and it can understand numbers, it can understand longitude and latitude. So you don't really have to play with these things. Just wherever you beep your waypoint, it'll automatically make a really pinpoint longitude and latitude location for that waypoint. So you can play with your altitude. You can manually type it in there. So now that's at 300 meters. So even though I'm only flying a short distance here from one to the other, the drone would actually fly from 30 meters here up to 300 meters, which would be a bit of an epic flight. And we'd definitely be too high there, so we can't fly that high. We can only fly to 120 meters, but that's just an example of what you can change there. So we can make that 30. You can change it with a slider, or you can just type it in manually. Now you do want to be a little bit careful here. If you did accidentally put negative 30, you would have dramas because the drone would be trying to fly through the earth. Now sometimes that's useful. If you take off from a hill, you do want to fly below. You might want to fly below your takeoff point. But definitely not for us. The school's pretty flat, not totally, but pretty flat. So 30 is what we'll stick to for this example. Now you can set your speed here. So this one has a speed of 13. So the speed will be set from there. Whoops, a daisy. We'll get rid of that one. So at waypoint 1, that'd be going at 10 k's an hour. By the time it gets to 2, it will take the new speed. So between 2 and 3, it will be going the speed that's set on 2. Now you can see a curve there too. So the curve is the blue line. So for cinematic stuff, you want a nice wide curve. So that's going to be a really smooth flight between those 3 points. But if you were, say, dropping a bomb here, making a delivery, or you really needed the drone at this point, you would reduce your curve size, so that blue line moving. So the tighter that is, the more to the dot your drone is going to fly. So, up here if you want things to look pretty on your camera, over here if you need the drone, where you need the drone. Set your curve side. Now your heading, you can play with your heading. So if we go to number 3 here, and I play with the heading, you'll see the drone spinning. Now we don't usually play with the heading. What we usually do is set a point of interest, and that decides the heading. So if we stay with point of interest 3 here, and we put a we stay with waypoint 3 here, and put a point of interest here. We go back to this one. We can then set a point of interest to number 1. So if I put that on 1, this will instantly turn around to be looking at that. So I'll click on that, and now you see it's looking at that. If I had another point of interest here, I can go back to this one and change that to 2. So this one, we might get him to look at 2 as well. And this one, he can look at 1. And that's sort of the easiest way to take care of the heading. But you can manually set it if that's what you want to do. Now you've got some options here for what your gimbal does. Now the gimbal is the camera and where it's pointing on the front of the camera, on the front of the drone. Now focus PI is where it is at, and that's normally what we want it to be on. Now last but not least, you've got actions. So you can get the drone to do certain things as it reaches each waypoint, which include staying. So you might get it to a spot and decide that you want it to stay there for 20 seconds. You could also get it to take a picture. And if you wanted it to take 2 pictures, all you would need to do is add to take 2 pictures. We've also got start recording and stop recording. We've got rotating the aircraft, so you might want it to stop on a spot and do a spin. And you've also got tilting camera options. Now for our mission, taking photo is the action that we are going to need to add. So we won't worry about that now, but as you go through this handout, that's one thing that you're going to need to do. I'm just going to clear my palette one more time. So you've got waypoint settings. You've also got point of interest settings. So altitude is the most important setting with a point of interest. How far above the ground the camera will focus. Now, when you make a point of interest with your right click, its default altitude is 1 meter. So if I'm flying from here to here, looking at point of interest 1 on both, on point of interest, that 1 above there means it's going to be looking 1 meter above the ground. And generally that's what you want. If you're at 1 meter, it means it's just nicely focused right on this spot at the ground. So if this was at 30 meters, whoops-a-daisy, what you would get between this waypoint and this waypoint is the drone looking at this spot, but not with the camera pointed at the ground. The camera would be pointed essentially straight. Now the camera can point up slightly. If we were to put this on 40 meters, you could get the drone to look up, okay, but the drone can't look up much. The camera's under a little bit of a hood at the front of the drone, so it can look up just a tiny bit, but it can't look up the same way you might sit in your chair and look up at the roof above where you're working at the moment. It can't quite look up that high. So if you really want to look up high in the air with the drone, you probably need to fly up to that height first. Delete, delete, delete. All right. So this is the mission that you need to create. Now, this mission was based on the idea of us doing deliveries around the school. So drones are used for deliveries in various countries, not so much in Australia, but it is a thing that happens. And drones are being used more and more for all sorts of different things. So this drone mission is based on the idea that you're making deliveries. Now you can't actually make a delivery with this drone. It doesn't really carry a payload. It's a camera drone. So what you're going to do to simulate um, making a delivery is go to a spot around the school and take a photo. And once you take that photo, that's your record that you were there and that you made your delivery in inverted commas. So this is where you need to get your drone mission to fly. So your takeoff and home point is the chessboard outside of the library. So you go to the library, you get in nice and close. That's the chessboard. That's where you take off from. Your delivery point 1 is the centre of the staff car park. Now we've got a staff car park here and here. This is the one I want you to focus on. So we've got a start point here, and then you will fly to here. Boom. You need to also go to the tennis court, the cricket pitch. Okay, so you've got the tennis court here. Now just be aware that you can't fly there directly, because if you fly there directly, you will potentially cross over some land that is not ours. So don't fly like that. Fly to here and then to here. Make sure you stay over our property, okay? You also need to go to the cricket pitch. Now, if you have a look here, we've got a cricket pitch there and a cricket pitch there. I don't mind which one you go to, take your pick. Behind the top oval. So we've got the top oval here. Now, we're not allowed there. That's out of bounds, but it is still our property. I want you to make your delivery up to here. We've got the back door to the hall. Now, this has changed. This is the old hall. It's going to look a little bit different now, but basically there's still a clear bit of land out here. So we'll just say about there. You've got the front door of the hall. So that would be here. You've got the rear entry to the VCA Centre. So this is the VCA Centre here. This is the rear entry at here. We've got the basketball courts outside the front of the tech room. So the tech room, the food tech room. So we're talking about the old food tech room here. So there's what have we got here? The basketball courts. So these basketball courts are still here, even though this isn't. So you can definitely fly to there. And then you've got the rear door to the rec centre. So we sometimes have assemblies over here and we sometimes go in the back door. So that's this spot over there. Cool, so that is your mission. Now your mission may look a little bit like that. Oops, daisy, did not mean to do that. So just if you want to move this around, by the way, hold your left click and you can scroll your screen around. Now, if you want to improve the efficiency of your mission, like if you're flying from here to here to here, you might as well stop here and do your delivery here rather than flying all the way around the school and coming back. So if there's a more efficient way to create a mission, feel free to do so. Just make sure you do deliveries at each point indicated on this list. And the other thing you need to do is make sure that your drone takes a photo at each point representing that you've made a delivery. Now, for all of your waypoints, all the ones I've just set there at 30 meters, we want a cruising height of 40. So we really want to be safe, that extra bit of safe. So 40s are a really safe height for buzzing over the school in our experience. So when you make each waypoint, set your altitude to 40. Now its default is 30. You can change that in your settings. If you find your cruising height, where is my cruising height? Where are we? Disable point of interest. There should be a cruising height around here somewhere. You're probably all looking at it and I can't see it. What do we got here? There is a way to change that default. I can't find it. Cruising speed, max flight speed, photo curve, default curve. Well, if you can find it, it's going to save you a lot of resetting. So if I do another point of interest here, oh no, it stayed at 40. There we go. They have all stayed at 40. So maybe I did that somehow. But anyway, we want your cruising height at 40 and we want your delivery height to be 30. Okay. So your cruising height, 40. You don't really need to fill out this as long as you make the mission. Your delivery height will be 30. And you don't need to worry about a spotter for the mission. So one of the safety regulations you need to follow, as you know, is that you need to maintain line of sight with your drone. I'll have the drone at school. I'll make sure I keep my eyes on it. So if we were doing this at school, we would send out some students with a walkie-talkie to keep that line of sight sorted, but you don't have to worry about that for today. So one final point. So for each delivery you make, you need to drop to 30 meters, take a photo to indicate your delivery, go back up to 40 meters and then go to your next waypoint. So first delivery was over here to the to the car park. So I want you to cruise in at 40 on as close to the same spot as possible. I want you to drop to 30. Now at your lower altitude, I want you to take a photo. And what I'll get you to do, I'll get you to stay for 10 seconds so that the drone's got a good solid 10 seconds at this spot before it takes a photo. So we'll stay for 10, we'll take the photo, and we'll stay for another 10 just to make sure it's got a really, clean 20 seconds to be stable and take a good photo. And then on almost the same spot, we'd make another waypoint to get us back up to 40. Now that might be a bit confusing, but by the time you've done this for your 10 deliveries, believe me, you'll be an expert at it. So looking at this, the drone's flying in at 40 meters. It's going to go down 10 meters. It's going to wait there, take a photo, and wait a little bit longer before it flies back up to 40 meters, and then it can take off to its next spot, wherever that might be. So the other thing we need here, of course, is the point of interest, and that lower waypoint would need to be focused on that point of interest. So just make sure that the camera is pointing at the right thing before the drone drops and takes a photo. Otherwise, you'll end up with a photo indicating a delivery that's pointing in the wrong direction. So let's say that we were going to make our delivery at the back of the wreck next. So we've flown to here. We go from here to here, and that'll be our drop to 30. So sorry, I made a waypoint there. I made a point of interest. We need a waypoint, sorry. So we'll drop for a 30 meters drop here. And on our 30 meters, we're going to stay for 10 seconds, take a photo, stay for 10 more seconds. Then at about the same spot, we'll cruise back up to 40. And then we'll go to our next spot. Now, I believe at our next spot, we were going to, need a waypoint there. So the door's about here. So we need a point of interest there. That's a right click, get back on our waypoint. That's the drop, the 30 meters one. And make sure that's looking at point of interest 2. So wait a minute, I must have accidentally deleted point of interest 1 over here. Get that back. Make sure the low one there is on the good old 30 meter one. Where is that 30 meter one? There it is. Make sure he's looking at point of interest 1. Good. Head over to our next one. That's coming in. He's still looking at point of interest 1. We'll get him on 2. Make sure our next one's on 2. Make sure our next one's on 2. All right, so next delivery, inverted commas, we want to get over to the tennis court. Now this one is pointing in the wrong direction at the moment. We don't really want to fly backwards, but we need a waypoint here before we can change that. So we'll get back on this one, change that to waypoint number 3. So this guy's cruising into here at 40. That's good. We'll get him pointing at number 3 as well. We're going to drop to 30 meters. Whoops, I did a right click instead of a left. Left click. He's dropping to 30 meters. And our actions will be to stay for 10 seconds, take a photo, stay for 10 more seconds, then get back up to 40 meters, and then we can cruise on. So you see these three little points here, it's actually not going to cover much territory at all. It's going to look on the video just like it's flown in and like it's dropped and like it comes back up and then it's going to move on. So this little space here, it might be 3 or 4 meters. So just as long as they're about in the same realm. So what we have is it cruises in, drops, pauses, takes a photo, comes back up to our safe height. Whoops a daisy, need to make that the safe height, don't I? I know it is 40, down to 30, up to 40. And then from there we can move on. Now I'll do one more quickly. I think you're getting the point now. We cruise in at 40. We drop to 30. Whoops a daisy, wrong click. We drop to 30. And we stay for 10. Take our photo. And stay for a further 10. And then we get back up to 40 before we move on. Now, of course, it's still looking in the wrong spot here, so we make our point of interest here. And we make sure this guy is looking in the right place, this guy looking in the right place, and this guy looking in the right place. So this little setup, this come in at 40, drop to 30, pause and take a photo, pause, come back up to 40, that has to happen at every delivery point, okay? And you'll end up with a mission that cruises around to all the spots listed on your handout and does this little drop and take a photo at each one. So if you get all of that done, and you should, I know I've taken ages to do it, but it shouldn't take you that long, you need to save this mission, okay, by clicking on mission and export as CSV. Now your CSV will come up down here. Now please send me this file. Please put your name on it. So if you click on there and show in folder, you should be able to put your name on there. Mr. Cleary, Litchi mission. Now that's not going to look the same way it does here, but that doesn't matter. What you've got now is a file that the drone can understand, and that's the file I need you to send me. Okay, so that's your work for today. Now, if you don't get it done today, and you don't have that much time, I've been recording for nearly half an hour here. So if you don't get it done today, don't worry, you're going to have a bit more time to work on this next week. If you don't understand any part of this video, of course, message me, watch the video again. There are heaps of videos on how to use Litchi as well. I'm not the first person who's ever used it by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm probably not the person who can give you the best explanation of it either. Okay, so watch the video, watch it again, watch it as many times as you need to. Make a couple that you know are wrong before you make one that you know is right. If there's anything on here you can't find, send me a message and I'll help you find it. Okay. Good luck, y'all. I'll be using your missions to fly around the school next week and uploading those videos, so that should be pretty cool. Something cool to have a look at and show your parents and all of those sorts of things. So good luck, and I'll see you in Edmodo next week.